Hello, welcome to Project 5P. Excuse the vibrations and the noise. I am on a very long drive, been driving many hours already, days actually, and so I will try to articulate my thoughts the best that I can in a comprehensible way. But I'm severely sleep deprived and food deprived and everything else deprived. But part of this trip that I'm on, this drive, I've had the, I would say, maybe unfortunate opportunity to listen to some YouTube videos, and I just wanted to try to express my feelings about what I've been hearing. Yesterday, I think it was, or the day before, Candace released a video that was entitled something to the effect of an open letter to Erika Kirk. So before I get started on that, this is not about Candace directly, although I will refer to her and what I agree and disagree with on certain points. It's not about Erika, it's not about Alex. I don't even know if I can say his name. He's banned from YouTube. They might just mention his name. I don't know if it's going to get taken down, but Mr. Jones. It isn't about them. It's about what we can learn from them and from what they're doing. Like I said, Candace just released a video, an open letter to Erika Kirk, and she first started talking a lot about Erika, you know, when Charlie first got shot, Charlie Kirk. Obviously she was, you know, trying to dig and find out what happened, why are people acting so shady, asking a lot of questions, which, again, I'm not going to get into too deep onto what I agree with her on and disagree on, not just this subject, but just in general with who she is. But just try to stick to this scenario at hand. Then a couple months later, she actually met with Erika face to face, and according to all accounts, between her and Erika both, they said that meeting went well. Then now she's back to publicly kind of implicating her and bashing her and calling her a liar and saying that she is being deceptive and etc., etc., etc. Then you have Alex, again, I don't know if I can say his name, Mr. Jones, who made a public video on his website saying, this has been probably several weeks ago now, that one, how he's concerned for Candace, that she seems to have gone off the deep end, that she's off her rocker, that he's quote unquote sincerely, you know, concerned for her. He says this on a public video to millions of people, saying how concerned he is for her well-being, and oh, I love Erika, I like her, I'm her, you know, she has, this is Alex saying these things, that she, I guess, has advertisements on his website, things like that he's associated with her before, that he truly cares about her and is truly, truly concerned. And you have Erika, obviously, making her sarcastic public remarks and referencing, you know, Candace and some of the things Candace has been saying. Then on top of all that, you have these third-party reaction type videos where people, ooh, did you Erika said this, and oh, did you see Candace's latest video? And oh, well, Candace said this, but this is not true. And Erika said this, and this is, oh, and it's like a cat fight, and back and forth and back and forth, and it's like we're stuck in the middle of a, I don't know, middle school gossip party, and it just honestly makes me sick. And all these people are professing Christ, professing Christians, all of whom have access to one another, all of whom have each other's phone numbers, emails, have access to each other. They're in the same circles. But instead of talking to one another, they're taking to the public airwaves to air their grievances on one another, and it's just very disappointing. The more I hear, it's just like, shut up and pick up the phone. And for those who are, staunch supporters of one or the other, you might say, well, they did talk. They did. First of all, the first time Candace and Erika talked was months after they had both been making public comments about each other. Then you have people you have people on each side that are supporting one or the other and saying one's right, one's wrong, no, she shouldn't have said this and she shouldn't have said that. It's just absolutely freaking mind-blowing. I think it was one of, I forget his name, Colin, something like that, Coach Colin, something like that. Saw a video where he commented that that the meeting between Candace and Erika could have / should have happened a lot earlier, which is obviously true, but then added behind that Erika should have called her. Erika should have called Candace. As true as that may be, this blind following and blind support of these public figures is absolutely ridiculous. Candace should have called her too, or one or the other. It goes both ways. And normally in this type of situation, I'd be more in support of the widow and saying it's on Candace, that Candace should have called. Candace should have approached her privately. I'd lean in that direction. But in this scenario, let's face it, Erika has not exactly been the grieving widow. If you can get on stage with your leather pants and pyrotechnics, just days after your husband's killed, and go on every TV show and podcast just fine, and be on a giggly Zoom call with your staff, then you can pick up a phone and call Erika if you have some kind of beef. Candace. Erika can pick up the phone and call Candace. So it's on both of them. One thing we need to get out of, one thing that also disgusts me about this is that, well, she blah, 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 blah. Well, he said blah, blah, blah. Well, she lied. Well, she, as if somebody else's wrongs justifies your own wrongs. As if somebody else's sins justifies your sin and lack of obedience. It doesn't work that way. That's why we have this society today that's so much a victim's mentality. Everybody wants to be a victim. Well, so-and-so did this wrong, because once you feel like you've been victimized, once you feel like somebody else has done something wrong, and you feel emboldened and empowered to then do them wrong, or then I'm justified in my own sin. And again, these are people professing Christ. Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and not do what I say? You can get on your podcast all you want and say Christ is King, or oh, glory to God, or or God, we're pushing the message of Christ all you want while you're bashing your fellow brother and sister behind the scenes, or actually in this case publicly, as opposed to talking to them individually. Alex, instead of posting that video, should have contacted Candace directly. And I don't care, regardless, for those who are supporting any of this, saying, well, they did have a talk, remember, but Erika lied, so Candace is calling her out now. It's not the way it works. Go back to Erika. Go back to Erika, Candace, if you feel she lied to you, and clarify. Having one meeting and then coming out and publicly bashing somebody. I understand this is a little bit different territory because we're talking about a murder and she's trying to get to the bottom of a murder and blah blah blah, but there's still biblical guidelines for how to approach this type of situation. We got to do better. And we, as a society, the reason why these people do this and don't think twice about it is because they're getting millions of views. Why would somebody, I have this nugget of information, I'm mad at Erika because I feel she lied to me, so I'm gonna blast it on my YouTube channel because people, that'll get people's attention, I'm not saying she's doing it for views or attention. Could very well be doing it just out of ignorance. Just doesn't know a better way. But we gotta be better. When you have a beef, when you have an offense, when you have something and you want to take it to anybody other than the person in question, that's a problem. And we do it way too much because we want that pat on the back, we want that validation from somebody, we want that echo chamber of, you know what, you're right, oh, that's horrible that person did that, or this and that. We want that comfort that we have people on our side. More so, we want that more than we want to know that God is on our side. We want to be told, you're right, you're right, yeah, you're right, that person's wrong for doing that. We want to be right more than we want to be righteous. And it's cowardice. It really is cowardice. It can be easily seen as, oh, Candace is so brave for getting out there and saying these things publicly, or, oh, look at Erika, so brave that she's, carrying on and so soon after her husband died, or look at Alex, he's brave for standing up to Candace and speaking out and saying, hey, you need to stop this, what you're doing, and blah, blah, blah. That can be seen as brave. I don't see that as brave when you're doing it on a public stage, hiding behind a computer or hiding behind whatever, instead of going and talking to the person face to face. Bashing people behind their backs rather than confronting them. Publicly expressing grievances instead of privately. And again, all while professing Christ. You might, there might be some that try to use the excuse of, well, Jesus called out sin, and Yeshua flipped over tables, and Yeshua did. First of all, you're not him. Let's make that real clear. You're not him. Second of all, we need to not take things out of context and think that just because Jesus flipped over some tables, that justifies us having public displays of outbursts of calling out sin. Study the story of the wheat and the tares. Like, actually study it. You want to use the excuse, people want to use the excuse that you're, quote unquote, standing for what's right, or you want to, quote unquote, expose sin, or you want to, quote unquote, expose lies, or, again, more interested in personal image and validation than more interested in proving I'm right than being righteous. Personal support and validation more than they want to be right in God's eyes. People want that echo chamber more than they want to actually do what's actually right. They want to give the appearance of being right more than they want to actually be right. And by be right, I mean act righteously according to how our Father says to handle these types of situations. These types of situations are very clearly laid out. Or at least, if not directly commanded, examples given when the Bible is read in complete context and not just, like I said, taking snippets out of context and, well, Jesus flipped tables, so that gives me a reason to be out there and just publicly just express my anger and frustration, or go talk about this person behind their back and make these accusations and these claims about them behind their back because, hey, I'm not lying. Maybe you are. And again, we constantly justify this type of action and behavior by, well, they did X. Pretty sure the Bible doesn't give commands with caveats of how you were treated. This is how I want you to act towards people. Unless they do you wrong, then forget everything I just said. Unless that person's really mean. I mean, if they're really mean, then, if they lied to you, then by all means, forget all the rest of my commands. Forget how I say to handle situations. If they lie to you, then that's a different story. Pretty sure that's not what it says. We got to do better. Our obedience individually, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. Your obedience to God and disobedience is directly unto Him, not I can justify my sin because I was sinned against. If that's the case, well, who could ultimately use that as the excuse? Yah forbid that Yeshua, Jesus, acts that way towards you. I do love you. And yes, I did die for your sins, but, you did this to me. So, hey, forget all my promises. Forget everything that I've done. Forget, no forgiveness for you. Nope. I take it all back. Our obedience is our obedience to God's word, to what He says to do. Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and not do the things that I say? I think one of the scariest verses in the entire Bible is when Jesus is telling the story that many will come to Him on the day of judgment and say, Lord, I did all these things in your name. And He said, get away from me, I never knew you. I think we know Him. Are we acting like it? Are we really, are we actually acting like it? Or are we constantly trying to cherry pick and twist His words and His guidance and His commands and His instructions on how to live based on other people act. I know I'm supposed to talk to that person privately and individually, but I already did that once and it didn't work, so now I'm taking this route. You know, I had another friend pass away recently. Another friend that I've known for 28 plus years. And in that process of talking to his family and some of the struggles they had been going through with this person and some of the family estrangement and things like that, one of them said something very profound that I loved, and I told him, I'm stealing it, you know who you are. Said, you know, it's sad that death is what has to bring us to these realizations and these light bulb moments. It really is. We need to come to these light bulb and realization moments now, today. He said, I'd rather be reconciled than right. Again, we're so intent on wanting to prove that we're right. That person was wrong. That person did X, Y, and Z, and that's wrong, and I want people to recognize that. I want people to recognize the wrong that was done. So I'm going to talk about that person. I'm going to go tell people about that person. I'm going to make up lies, or I'm going to just expose or say this stuff publicly that I haven't even confronted the person about. And God forbid, on top of that, pile on lies on top of it. I'm going to do all that because I want people to know that I was wronged. And this friend that I was talking to, the sibling of the friend that passed away, sobbing in tears, wishing he could have time back on the clock, because he's telling himself now, I just wanted people to know that I was right, that I wanted him to know that. I was more intent on being right than anything else, and I'd rather be reconciled than right. I had another conversation with someone recently that around this same time of this person passing away, and we were just opening up about some of those pains of and the situations growing up of just various situations. And you know, the person brought up somebody in particular and the things that they felt that they were done wrong by this person, and kind of started to go off on a little bit of a tangent of how wrong they felt by this person. And it was a very, you know, it wasn't angry, it wasn't like this just rambling, it was just, we were just very chill, sitting in their living room, and they're just expressing themselves. It's a very slow-paced conversation, and say a little bit, and I give some feedback and acknowledge or whatever the case might be. And it started to go a little bit sideways, and I stopped and I told him, hey brother, can I give you some loving rebuke right now? And to his credit, he said, yeah, what's up? And I said, all this stuff you're saying, your complaints about this person, if you haven't told him yet, then you shouldn't be telling me. And he was just like, you're right. To his credit, he acknowledged it. He said, you're right. We got to do better, people. We're so quick to point out other people's sins, and we want it to be known that what this person did was wrong. How about focusing on what you did wrong and are doing wrong? You want so badly to expose sin and expose mistakes and expose lies and expose whatever. How about doing that yourself? How about finding somebody and just telling them all the lies you told, all the lies you told? How about you find somebody and tell them all the ways that you were destructive? How about you make a YouTube video explaining and highlighting and going into detail about all your sins? How about that? How about you make a YouTube video telling the world all your lies? How about you go on YouTube and instead of saying, I'm really concerned about this person and I just want the whole world to know, I haven't told them yet, I didn't call her, but I want the whole world to know that I'm a good person because I'm really concerned for them. How about instead of doing that, you tell us what concerns you, about your own actions, about the thoughts that you struggle with, about the sin in your own heart that you don't tell anybody about. How about you make a YouTube video about that instead of somebody else's stuff? We gotta do better. If someone has sinned against you, go talk to that person. Not to somebody else, even though talking to somebody else might feel better because you're going to specifically pick somebody that you believe will agree with you and believe will give you that validation and that pat on the back and tell you that you're right because that's what you want to hear. You can go and make a YouTube video because you know you have millions of followers that are going to cheer you on and root you on and say, yeah, that's right. You tell her from both sides having support. You want to garner that support. Again, looking for the acceptance and support and validation of man more than our Father in heaven. We got to do better. I don't know if any of this made sense. I am off the charts tired and I feel like I have rambled a little bit and maybe got off topic at times. But this taking to the public airwaves to make this passive aggressive attack on someone or talking behind people's backs, regardless, again, Candace and Erika could both say, well, we did talk. We talked for 4 hours and now I'm finding out that she lied, or now she's saying this, or now she's saying that, so that throws everything out the window. No, where is your obedience to the word? Where is your obedience? Where is your righteousness in following the steps that are supposed to be taken when your brother has sinned against you? Or you think your brother has sinned against you? Even if you quote unquote, oh no, I don't think, I know. They'll both say that they know. All three of these characters in this particular scenario will all say that they know that the other person's lying, or they know that whatever, the other side is wrong. That doesn't change anything. there's still guidelines, there's still principles, there's still framework for how to approach these types of situations. And I don't think that the examples that are being set right now are beneficial at all. And shame on the rest of us for watching and feeding into it with YouTube comments and with just feeding into it, just being entrenched in it. Like I said, I watched one video and that led to 2 and led to 3 because the algorithm changes and you're just getting fed a video of, oh, look what this person said back and look what this third party said about the 2 of them fighting, pointing out which one's right and wrong. And oh my gosh, stop. Just stop. I had to turn it off. Like, just stop. There's people in your life right now that you're not talking to because you were right and they were wrong. At least in your eyes. What we have to stop doing is thinking that we are right just because someone else is wrong. You do realize that it's possible for both sides to be wrong at the same time, right? We just want to be more right. We want the other person to be more wrong, and we're afraid that if we apologize, if we're the ones to make that step, if we're the first one to make that step of reconciliation, then that other person is going to justify their behavior, and I can't apologize because then they're going to think that they're in the right, and then they're going to keep treating me like that. We have all this game and all this scenario that we've already played out in our mind. Just obey Christ. Just do what you're supposed to do. We're trying to justify not doing that because we have this idea in our mind already of how it's going to play out. And you might be very well intentioned and you might be completely validated that other person, I'm not downgrading what the other person did or said or lied to you or bashed you behind your back or what, anything, whatever they did. I'm not justifying any of that. What are you going to do with it? Because they were disobedient, because they sinned, now I am able to sin because they sinned against me, they hurt me. So now I am justified to do evil. It's not how this works. We're held to a higher standard. As believers, especially, we're held to a higher standard. We're not going to get before Yeshua in judgment and say, yeah, I know I told you not to do this and not to do that and to do this and to do that, but you were wronged. So, somebody hurt you. So let's just forget it. Forget all my commands. Forget all my God. I'm going to make an exception for you because you were wronged, unlike anybody that's ever else been wronged in history. Because I sure don't know what it's like. Yeshua is speaking. You're right. I don't know what it's like to be betrayed. I don't know what it's like to have people talk about me behind my back. I don't know what it's like to be lied to and lied about. I don't know what it's like to be literally killed. So by all means, let me make an exception for you because you had it so bad. Doesn't matter what other people do. We got to get out of that mentality. Doesn't matter how bad people are. That doesn't justify our own evil. It doesn't justify our own lies. It doesn't justify our own backbiting. It doesn't justify our own hatred or anger or bitterness or strife or any of that. I encourage you, turn those YouTube videos off. A lot of times we like going and look for them and look at them because we want to feel justified in our own anger and our own stance on certain issues. Just like 2 Timothy says, or 1 Timothy, whatever it is, I think it's 2nd, that we'll seek out those who will tell us what we want to hear, to tickle our ears, to justify our own actions. I encourage you, don't do that. Seek the word and obey it, even if it's not popular, even if it's going to lose you viewership, even if it's going to lose you friends, even if it's going to cause the right people, if they are the right people, to rebuke you, even if it's going to cause them to reject you, because you actually have to confess that, hey, I'm at fault here. Even if it takes you out of that echo chamber, even if it makes you uncomfortable, even if it stops that pat on the back, because now you're telling the truth and people realize, oh, you're not totally the victim in this. Candace, Erika, and Alex all claim to be the victim because the other of the three are all talking and bashing each other and saying things about each other. They all claim to be, in one way or another, the victim, while simultaneously doing the exact same thing that they're accusing the others of doing. But again, justifying it because, well, they did it, so I'm just defending myself. It doesn't. We gotta step it up. We gotta do better. I'll leave it at that. Get after it.